What is up, YouTube? Live via satellite here, and today we are talking Kingdom. And in particular, guys, today we will be making a list of the next 6 great generals. But not just any list, guys. We're going to be using the old 6 great generals to help us predict the next generation of the 6 great generals. So lately, guys, in the more recent chapters of Kingdom, we've been talking about the previous generation of the 6 great generals a lot. Like, Yoon's been bringing them up from time to time. And we've been getting a lot of different comparisons from the new generation and the old generation. So what I decided to do was I wanted to see if it was possible for us to make a new 6 great generals based on some of the comparisons we've been getting throughout the manga. Now, some of these comparisons are very specific, and then some of them are kind of vague because we don't have much to go on. But I still think we have plenty of information to take a shot at this, and I just thought now was the perfect time, especially with all the 6 great general talk we've been getting lately. So, of course, we're going to start with the leader, and we're going to start with Hakuki. Now, Hakuki was stated by Renpa to be a man who never took risks. No matter how much they baited him or how good a situation looked, he would never fall for whatever trap they were trying to lay. He was someone who never gambled, took risk, and he could always see through the opponent's schemes. And we see that when he's talking to Kyoin about Hakuki, he actually said that Osen reminded him of him. And this all happened during the Sanyo campaign when Osen was caught off guard by the sudden appearance of Renpa. But even though Renpa appeared suddenly, even Heki noted that Osen still had the advantage. And just when Renpa was excited to see what Osen would do, Osen shocks him by retreating from the battlefield. Because he wasn't sure of the outcome, because he wasn't 100% sure that he could win that battle, he made the decision to leave. Even though it could have potentially went his way, he didn't want to leave it to chance. And that was exactly the type of thing Hakuki would do, always have his opponent chasing. And Renpa wasn't the only one to give Osen praise. Oki himself even said that Osen was on the level of the 6 great generals. But the comparisons to Hakuki are reinforced even further when Renpa sees that Osen has built a fort in the middle of the battlefield, which was also something that was comparable to Hakuki. So based on what Renpa let us know, Hakuki is most similar to Osen. Not even to mention the fact that both of these guys have 2 of the meanest eye glares in all of Kingdom. So based on all that info, we're going to put Osen as the leader of the next 6 great generals. So that's the first and most important slot filled. But also in the same conversation between Renpa and Kyoin, we find out a little bit about another 6 great general, Kyo. And we find out that she was very offense oriented, and that her attacks were so crazy that anytime someone clashed with her, there would be tens of thousands of casualties. And after seeing chapter 549 where Gyo-eun is looking at Kyokai amongst all the bodies, which could have been in the hundreds or thousands, you see that these two are not only both females, but also have similar approaches on the battlefield. And Gyo-eun brought it up himself that she reminded him of a certain 6th great general. And since she was the only female of the 6, you kind of assumed that's who he was talking about. And even though this is the most recent time we've seen Kyokai in a field of dead bodies, this by no means is anything new for Kyokai. She also, back during the Sanyo campaign, was pushed to her limits when after Rinko's death we find out that he has sent a detachment of soldiers that were mainly comprised of Kaishibo's personal soldiers. And her, along with a bunch of other wounded members of the Haishin unit, were forced to fight them off. And at that time, Kyokai was also very injured herself. But again, we see Kyokai managing to take out hundreds of people, and then being found by Shin exhausted amongst the corpses. And it's a funny coincidence that it's also the time that the rest of the Haishin unit finds out that Kyokai is actually a woman. And another good comparison that you can make between Kyokai and Kyo is that they both had a similar goal, which was to marry another member of the 6 great generals. In Kyo's case, it was Oki, and for Kyokai, it's obviously Shin, who I'm going to go out on a limb and say will one day be a part of the 6 great generals. So there you guys have it. That is why Kyokai takes our number 2 spot in our list for the next 6 great generals. Next, we'll talk about Okatsu. And what we know about Okatsu is that he fought against Kame and was defeated. But he was also known to be the strongest out of all the 6 great generals in pure brute strength. So seeing as Mobu was able to defeat Kanmei and claim the title as the strongest man in China, I'm going to have to say that he would be most comparable to Okatsu, because not only would he be considered the strongest in brute strength amongst the new 6 great generals, but he would also have avenged Okatsu's loss, while at the same time surpassing him, a former member of the 6 great generals. Not to mention, the reason we would have to consider Mobu in the 6 great generals to begin with is that he's the one who actually brought this proposal to revive the 6 great generals before Sei in the first place. So it's only right he makes the team. Alright, so next we'll talk about Kosher. Kosher was so brilliant that he was actually rumored to be the mastermind who was running the 6th grade generals from behind the scenes. And he was actually the only one of the 6th grade generals who was actually a pure strategist. And one of his pupils was Shohiken. And we all know that Shohiken is one of the top strategists in Kingdom. But Shohiken himself had a pupil by the name of Moten, who he says that he himself cannot even grasp the depths of Moten's abilities. So it's possible from a strategical standpoint that Moten has already surpassed Shohiken's level. Osen even said that Moten was on the level of him and Raboku when it came to strategy, which is a pretty big deal because Kosho said himself that when it came to strategical prowess, that Osen was already on the level of the 6th grade generals. So by Osen suggesting that Moten could hang with him and Raboku on that level, it's in a way putting Moten's strategical genius on par with that of the 6th grade generals. And another way I think that Moten's similar to Kosho is how they said that Kosho seemed to run things from behind the scenes. When you look at Moten, he's always the one coming up with plans. We've seen him do this in Sanyo, and we also just seen him do it recently when Shin joined him on his battlefield. But there's other times when he's making small adjustments even when they're not on the battlefield. For example, when he helped Shin to realize that he needed a strategist, and even went as far as to help him to find one. And also more recently when we see him enlightening Ohan on the view of a great general. So these things, coupled with the fact that we know that Moten really doesn't like to get his hands dirty, we've even heard him say things like he would like to be an official. So you could tell that Moten isn't the type who wants to be known for his martial prowess, and I think this is why we rarely see any feats of him duking it out. Even in his recent stand against Kishui, he pointed out the fact that he hated what he was about to have to do, which was fight till sundown. So looking at it, Moten has most similar characteristics of Kosho, not known for martial might and pretty much just known for their strategical abilities. So at the 5th spot, we're going to talk about Oggy. When you look at Oggy, Oggy had it all. Oggy was balanced. He was elite when it came to strategy, and he was elite when it came to martial might. He was like the best of both worlds, which made him one of the most feared generals in all of Quinn. He could beat you with his head or he could beat you with his glaive. Either or, Oggy could do it. And I know this may be kind of controversial because Shin inherited Oggy's glaive. Shin has the parallels with Kyo and Kyokai going on, and he was also the student of Oggy. But when it comes down to it, and when I have to think about who he is most comparable to in this new generation, it will have to be the man who's in the same family, Ohan. Because Ohan is the same thing. Ohan is someone who is very versatile. He can do it on both levels. He can come up with plans, he can come up with strategy, and he is also very talented when it comes to using his spear, basically having the martial prowess. And the best example that you can find of how much of a dual threat both these characters are is when you look at both the arcs that each one was featured in. When it comes to Oki, it was the Bio arc, and in this arc we saw him display why he was one of the most complete generals in all of Kingdom. When you look at the elaborate plan that he had laid out for Fuki, he was pretty much playing Fuki like a puppet the entire time. And when Fuki finally realizes this and tries to retreat, Oki had went into such detail in his plan that he even had men with flags ready to make Fuki hesitate once he attempted to retreat. And just that brief hesitation allowed for Shin to be able to take Fuki's head. And this just shows how much of a genius Oki was when it came to strategy, because Fuki wasn't a scrub by any means. Even the fact that Oki decided to take him out first shows how brilliant he was in tactics. But his martial might was also showcased when he fought against Shomo, who was actually another one of the main generals on the Zhao side. And he was actually hyped up to the point that one of Oki's commanders cautioned Toe that Oki should be careful when dealing with him. But once Oki goes out to confront him, we can see that there's a major difference in their abilities. And Oki just one-shots the guy. And when it comes to Ohan, he also had an arc where he both showcases his strategical and martial abilities. In the Fire Dragons Away arc, we see Ohan not only come up with a plan, but a plan that actually ended in success. Which is a pretty big deal because even To, who was Oki's right-hand man, was unable to come up with a plan for this situation. And not only that, in the same arc we see him defeat Earl Shi, who was one of the 7 Fire Dragons of Wei. So not only did Ohan show that he can come up with top tier strategies, he also showed that he's able to take out top tier opponents. And Ohan's talents have not gone under the radar. He's actually been acknowledged by both Shigaryu and Gi-Yoon recently. And in particular, when Gi-Yoon first saw that Ohan and Shin were fighting their way out of his trap, he says the two of them were giving off a stench, and it reminded him of the 6th grade generals. And if I had to pick one of the 6th grade generals that Ohan would most be similar to, it would have to be Oggy. And finally, we have Shiva Sacco. and we know absolutely nothing about this general. This is the only one of the 6th grade generals that we've learned nothing about, aside from the fact that he's in the 6th grade generals. And since we know nothing about him and all the other slots are filled, by process of elimination, we're going to put Shin with Shiva Sacco, because he has to make the list, since after fighting with Shin, Gyu-un did compare him to the 6th grade generals as well. And the funny thing here is we know nothing about Shiba Sacco, but we do know things about Shin. And I actually think it would be very interesting if Shiba Sacco turned out to be a character similar to Shin. When you take a look back at this list, we had a general who was the leader. We had a general who was a female. We had a general who was the strongest amongst the 6. We had a general who was a strategist, and we had a general who was well balanced. The only thing I think that would complete this list is if we had a general who used their instincts. So in my personal opinion, I think it would be perfect if Shiba Sacco wound up being an instinctual general. And I think as we're starting to get closer and closer toward the end of this Western Zao campaign, it would be nice to see maybe Gyu-un have some flashbacks to when he was having some instinctual battles against Shiba Sacco, and maybe get a little bit more background on him. But that's just me speculating. So yeah guys, that is my list of trying to make the next 6th grade generals based off the old ones. And I know we left a lot of guys off the list, but everybody can't be a 6th grade general. And who knows, maybe Sei may actually extend the 6th grade generals, maybe make it a larger number like 9 or 10, seeing as the conquest of China is going to be such a large undertaking for the Qin army. But anyway guys, let me know what you guys thought of this discussion in the comments section below. Please leave a like if you guys enjoyed the video, and feel free to share, comment, and subscribe. Peace out.